Hello everybody, I'm Krasi and I invited Zori again here, and we will talk about relationship compatibilities and challenges, and Zori will come up with remedies. We will not have typical synastry or relationship compatibility lesson. There are many other videos which I made on relationships, on love. On my channel, I will make some more also in the future. This will be just to indicate some interesting points which can show existence of challenges or problems in the relationships of the people. And when I indicate them, Zori will come up with remedies, which will be simple and which we all are capable of applying. So, Zori, I will just list a few planetary placements in the charts of two people, and then I will hand it up to you so that you can really advise and give remedies, because Zori is a consultant, a relationship consultant, and business consultant, and you can see her website under this video, or easily, if you can remember, healandlearn.com is her website, where advisors and also specialists in different fields are available for consultations. So, in synastry, we know that we are making comparison between the charts of two people. This can be either relationship, romantic relationship, or career relationship, any charts you can compare, and there you can see what is working in harmony and what can create challenges and problems in the future, what is potentially there for the two people. So Saturn is usually existing when you compare the challenges and the charts. Saturn is very important and is existing usually to show whether there will be a longevity of this relationship, either between man and woman or at work or any. But Saturn, in the chart of one person, when having this harmonious aspect towards luminary, for example, towards moon or sun of the other person, can be an indication of some sort of dominating or suppressing the personality of the second person. So I will ask you here to say 2-3 words, Zori, but before I continue, there is also a very interesting placement which can add up to this particular placement in the charts. And this will be the Rahu, the head of the dragon lunar node. And when Rahu is in the 7th house, it is known that Rahu is pointing where our desires are, what we want to accomplish into this incarnation. So when Rahu is in the 7th house of one of the two, I'm not looking here at any aspects between the charts. Of course, this is also important, but simply if Rahu is in the 7th house, this would say that this person finds being in a relationship as something primarily very, very important. It's like this person will be able to exist or have or find self-value or find self-esteem only through a relationship. So this person will need this desperately, so to say. So, and will lack self-esteem without being in a relationship. So these two factors together, having the dominance of one over the other one, and the second one, how you see this, and what are the possible remedies for such kinds of challenges?
Hi everyone, and thanks Krasi for having me over at your channel again. It's a pleasure to discuss this topic because it's a topic dear to my heart and a topic that I've given a lot of thought to. And while you were talking, the first thing that came to mind was a title of a book that I started reading. I don't think I ever finished it because the content there was so clear already by half of it that I felt like I didn't need to read any further. The book was written by a German psychologist who was a relationship psychologist, and the book's title is "It Doesn't Matter Who You Marry," and you probably disagree with that, but the premise of this book is that actually we are the ones who pick up certain qualities or instigate certain qualities of the partner, and it doesn't really matter who the other person is, but our own qualities are reflected by the other person. So what we hold inside is what the other person shows. So if a partner is very dominant and very despotic to us, he can be the most loving person to somebody else. Well, maybe not to such an extreme, but still he can exhibit completely different qualities. So what I mean by that is that what matters the most in a relationship is your relationship to yourself. And most relationship troubles actually come from the feeling of worthlessness, of self-worthlessness. Because this is bound to self-love. If you don't love yourself, there's nobody else who can love you. And the problem is most of us are imprinted with such a feeling to a smaller or bigger extent from our childhoods. And this is probably what you can also see by somebody's aspects between the sun and the moon, because this is what represents our mothers and fathers.
Yes.
Right. So if somebody has a bad aspect between the sun and the moon, you already know that the relationship is not good, because we imprint their relationship, what we've seen in our childhood, and whether we think about it or not, it is subconsciously there. If we don't actively work on it, it will keep appearing. So the other thing is that usually the problematic figure in a family is the father. And not at 100%, but most of the time it is the father. We see it as actually being the father, but the mother is the one who translates the love from the father to the child. So if the relationship between the mother and the father was not good, the mother would not translate the love of the father to the child. So the child would not feel love from the father. And the father himself would actually pull himself back as well, because the mother has not translated the love. So it is the role of the woman to connect the love of the father to the child. And so this is why we often say, or it is generally thought that the problem stems from the father, but as a matter of fact, it is the relationship between the mother and the father. So after this very long introduction about our roots and mothers and fathers,
this makes sense. Just to interrupt you, because indeed, when there is a tense aspect between the luminaries, the sun and the moon in the natal chart, even before looking at synastry, certainly this is showing what you exactly said. So your remedy for this particular issue is what you just said, right? To translate.
Actually, there are.
No, continue.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the mother needs to translate the love. So even if she's in a horrible relationship to the father, she needs to give him respect, so that the connection between the father and the child is restored again. And this is a principle that is used in family constellations. And there are many exercises that could be done using imagination in a state of I wouldn't call it trance, in a state of relaxation. You use your imagination to basically rearrange the figures of your mother and father. So you can imagine them sitting next to each other, loving each other while you were a child. You can picture somewhere next to your bed of the two of them loving each other. So basically you have to convince yourself that at some point they actually loved each other, because this is very important to how you look at the world and at your partners, because you won't believe in love unless you were brought up with this. And many of us have not brought up in families that were very loving, or at some point they were not so loving. But this doesn't mean that we are cursed for the rest of our lives and we are doomed to have bad relationships.
No.
So we can, yeah, we can work a lot. I mean, energy starts with works of the mind. So when you convince your mind, you start by convincing your mind, and then your energy changes as well. It changes accordingly, but it takes some time. It might take about a month of you doing this exercise of imagining your mom and dad loving each other. And then you will start trusting in love, and your self-worth and self-love will increase. and this will attract another partner, or this will improve the relationship to your existing partner. So family constellation, well, there are different exercises, but if you just use the simple one, I think it already will give results.
What you do with over-dominating partner, like his Saturn would be squaring your Sun, and he would be really dominating. And I've seen such synastries, and this is exactly how it works. What are you doing then in such cases? I know one solution will be leave this partner, but if you don't want to leave him or her, what are you doing then?
I mean, it is again about self-worth and being able to place boundaries. So we sometimes tend to dissolve, to give everything to the partner and accept everything because we are not worth it. We believe that we can't find anything better. This is the reason why you put off with this partner. And so it's again, work on self-worth. You can use meditations, you can use NLP as well. There's a strong meditation that maybe I'm just gonna, I can't
say it briefly,
describe it in 5 minutes, but very briefly. It involves positioning of your imagination in certain corners of your mind screen. So if your current situation is that you're in a difficult relationship that is a bit dominant, oppressive, you imagine the current situation and you place it either behind yourself or to your right, because this is the past. Then you take a thought that you strongly believe in. If you don't have anything that you have full belief in, then you imagine the sun coming up, because the sun comes up every single morning. So this is the absolute truth. You believe in that. There's no way around it. The sun comes up every morning. So you take this and you take the feeling of the belief that the sun comes up every morning, and you feel it in your body, where exactly it is. Once you locate it in your body, you start increasing it. So you imagine that the first feeling you have is 1, and then you count 2, 3, 4, 5, up until 10, until the feeling is exponentially high. And then you place this feeling somewhere to the upper right corner of your mind screen. Then you imagine your ideal situation where you have boundaries, where you're respected, where your partner is not oppressing you. And you place this image, the whole thing, what it would look like, how the partner would treat you. Would he give you flowers, or would she not whip you with a whip every day? I mean, you might like it, but you might not. So it really depends. So you imagine this perfect picture, and you place it together with your belief that your sun comes up every day. So this is the perfect trust you have in the universe. There's no bigger feeling of trust in your body than that. So you place them together, and then you move them somewhere into the distance, and you believe that this is it. This is the way it is. That it works. The question is that you shouldn't question. It is you believe that the work that you have done will work. So this is a very brief NLP tool that you can use to increase your self-worth.
It is like how we call this when you are giving your wishes to the universe. How there is also a technique. Is this the same technique like when you will be, so that your wishes can manifest? So this can basically be used for every wish to come true, right? This technique.
So the manifestation techniques are just techniques, but the basics behind is used in all kinds of manifestation tools and in all kinds of methods. The basics behind manifestation, whatever tool you use, whatever you read, is all the same. You basically have to find something that resonates with your soul. So not a wish that doesn't resonate. There are methods to find wishes that resonate with your soul, in order not to take superficial ones that are imposed by the outside. So number one is you find a wish or a goal that resonates with your soul. Second, you start visualizing. You can use many things to visualize, including a vision board, but you can also do it with your mind. You don't need to use anything physical. Basically, everything that's physical is only used to supplement and to increase the power of your thought. You can do everything in your mind without using any additional object. And then you involve feeling, and then you let it go. So once you infuse this picture with a lot of feeling and sensations, you just let it go to the universe and you believe that it will happen. And this is the basis of all manifestation tools out there. They can be explained in multiple ways, but this is actually what it is based on.
So this is a remedy in relationships in order to improve existing challenges like domination and oppressing, suppressing. So this can be helpful, you're saying. And what about people which find themselves valuable only through being in a relationship, like having Rahu in the 7th house? Of course, there would be, this is very simple the way I say it. It can be, Rahu in the 7th house is not enough. It depends where the ruler of the 7th house is, the aspects. This is just an overview of a possibility, so to say.
Well, you see, whenever you see a placement, it's an axis, right? So whenever you see a certain astrological placement, first of all, there are manifestations on both sides, and second of all, it really depends on your perception, or rather how you often say it depends how evolved you are, but this actually means your perception, how you look at it. This is and this is why, this is our power actually. When you say, oh, we have very small power within the astrology chart, but our power is the way we look at things. So whenever you have,
very true.
Yeah, so the way you look at any placement of Rahu and Ketu, I mean, yes, it could be very negative, and then you use these techniques to increase self-worth and to build your boundaries, as I said. But you can also work on your perception, on how you see things, on your philosophy of life, and then you would start manifesting the positive sides of Rahu and of Ketu. And what are the positive sides of Rahu, for example, in the 7th house?
Well, it can, Rahu in the 7th house.
Yeah.
Well, the person then can, if indeed, depends where the ruler of the 7th house is, then you see whether the ruler is detriment, whether it's fallen, whether it's exalted. This will say a lot and will give details to the attitude of the person towards the relationship. So this is very, very important to see. But on the other hand, this can create very good relationship if the person is balanced, if this is not exaggerated, but again, depends on the placement of the ruler. Of the 7th house. So if the person is on such spiritual level, or as we said, evolved, and if the ruler of the 7th house is very well placed, I believe this can result in a very good, balanced, intelligent relationship where the person will be aiming at perfect relationship, if you want, without losing his or herself into the relationship. But we're talking about challenging placements which are not perfect, because indeed, as you said, this is an axis, and when Rahu is there, Ketu is on the 1st house, and this is showing exactly where the limitations are. So the self-esteem, the self-value, self limitations, right?
Right. So,
yes.
But another problem that I often see is that people don't follow or don't embody their gender energy. So they tend to be, especially women, tend to be so masculine these days. And I myself tend to be masculine as well sometimes. And of course, I'm working on that. And I know the drawbacks of exhibiting this energy too much. But sometimes it is needed, especially when you're doing business. Sometimes it is needed to engage this energy because it gives you drive. The feminine energy is very passive, for example. So whenever you're doing business, you actually need to engage a bit of masculine energy at least. But what limitations can be given in a chart when there's a disbalanced position between Mars and Venus?
Well, I noticed that every aspect of Venus and Mars between the two charts is a good thing, even if it's a square. It would show a bit two temperamental emotions, for example. It is about sexual emotions, Mars and Venus. Pluto is very important because it's about depth, deepest of the depth is is visible through Pluto, because Pluto and Venus, especially, even more than Mars and Venus, their relationship is very important. Well, yes, any aspect between the two is important in the synastry. It needs to be there. Otherwise, because this is sort of basis for a healthy relationship, right? When there is attraction, love, romance, all this is seen through the relationship and the aspects between Venus and Pluto and Mars, or Venus and Pluto. I would add to this that the heliacal phases are very important. So say, for example, and here I'll ask also your opinion, that Venus in the chart of the person is invisible and never becomes visible in the lifetime of the person. So, because the planets have heliacal phases at one certain moment. Venus, for example, is hiding in the rays of the sun. And this is immediately pointing that the person may have issues with finding the right partner, or may have issues with being always not satisfied with the partners he or she is finding. And this can take long, and this can take that long that the person will need this moment where Venus will become heliacally visible, and this may never happen. And here we need a remedy. And just before I ask you for the remedy, here very helpful are the astrological talismans, exactly Venus, but they're not solving it entirely. It's just a help, but it will not bring the partner into your life if there is no indication in the chart. So one remedy to a degree is indeed very much Venus talisman. But what are the additional remedies in this case, Zori?
Well, about 1% of all the people in the world are naturally asexual, or they don't need a partner. So there is a percentage of the population that doesn't need to be in a relationship. And we assume that all the remaining 99% want to be in a relationship. So if it's not meant to be, of course, you can't live your life with to reach a certain point. I'm going to have a relationship and then I'm going to start living. So the question is, you live your life irrespectively of whether you're in a relationship or not. You can still enjoy life. And what if you have a few short-term relationships in a row? Is that a big problem? You're still in a relationship. You're still experiencing different people. I mean, who said that you need to be with this one big love?
Exactly.
I mean, even the people that are in a relationship change partners 2, 3, 5, 30 times in a lifetime. So if it's not written in your chart that you'll meet your once in a lifetime partner, I mean, you can have many relationships in the meantime and just enjoy them. In the end, it's not about doom and gloom. If you have something in your chart that says you're not going to achieve it, then you focus on something else, or take whatever you have.
It's like, I think Bogumil Rainov, Bulgarian author, was saying, if the neighbor has a cat, it doesn't mean that I need to have a cat also. It's like if if someone else has a relationship, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily that. Yes, exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking, if somebody is not given a gift in one sphere of life, he's given a gift in another sphere of life.
Oh yeah.
So this person needs to find out what their gift is in what sphere of life and utilize that, because he's deprived of something for a reason, to develop another gift. So and therefore work on finding the purpose is very important. What is the purpose of the soul?
And knowledge, yes, knowing, and yes, through astrology or other means, just to know your chart, to know the chart of your partner. It's already it's like you are having the diagnose, and then the healing is there immediately. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Zori. Shall we conclude here, and we can have other videos on relationship, because this is always very interesting.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I will place a link to your website for the people who need to have your relationship advices. Thank you so much, Zori.